On the plane Terra, in the radio room, Snap and I stood with Moa's weapon upon us.
Miko held Anita. Triumphant, possessive.
Then as she struggled, a gentleness came to this strange Martian giant. Perhaps he really loved her.
Looking back on it, I sometimes think so. Anita, do not fear me.
He held her away from him.
I would not harm you. I want your love. Irony came to him.
And I thought I had killed you. But it was only your brother.
He partly turned.
I was aware of how alert was his attention.
He grinned. Hold them, Moa. Don't let them do anything foolish. So, little Anita, you were masquerading to spy on me? That was wrong of you. Anita had not spoken. She held herself tensely away from Miko.
She had flashed me a look, just one. What horrible mischance to have brought on this catastrophe. The completion of Grantline's message had come unnoticed by us all.
We remained tense. Look! Grantline again.
Snap said abruptly. But the mirrors were steadying. We had no recording mechanism, the rest of the message was lost.
No further message came. There was an interval while Miko waited.
He held Anita in the hollow of his great arm.
Quiet, little bird. Do not fear me.
I have work to do, Anita, this is our great adventure.
We will be rich, you and I.
All the luxuries these worlds can offer, all for us when this is over.
Careful, Moa. This Haljan has no wit. Well could he say it. I, who had been so witless as to let this come upon us. Moa's weapon prodded me.
Her voice hissed at me with all the venom of a reptile enraged.
So that was your game, Greg Haljan. And I was so graceless as to admit love for you. Snap murmured in my ear, don't move, Greg. She's reckless. She heard it. She whirled on him. We have lost George Prince, it seems. Well, we will survive without his scientific knowledge.
And you, Dean, and this Haljan, mark me, I will kill you both if you cause trouble.
Miko was gloating. Don't kill them yet, Moa. What was it Grantline said?
Near the crater of Archimedes.
Ring us down, Haljan. We'll land.
He signaled the turret, gave Coniston the Grantline message, and audiphoned it below to Han. The news spread about the ship.
The bandits were jubilant. We'll land now, Haljan. Come, Anita and I will go with you to the turret. I found my voice. To what destination? Near Archimedes. The Apennine side. Keep well away from the Grantline camp. We will probably sight it as we descend.
There was no trajectory needed.
We were almost over Archimedes now. I could drop us with a visible, instrumental course. My mind was whirling with a confusion of thoughts. What could we do? I met Snap's gaze.
Ring us down, Greg, he said quietly.
I nodded. I pushed Moa's weapon away. You don't need that. We went to the turret. Moa watched me and Snap, a grim, cold Amazon. She avoided looking at Anita, whom Miko helped down the ladders with a strange mixture of courtier-like grace and amused irony. Coniston stared at Anita. I say, not George Prince? The girl. No time for explanations, Miko commanded.
It's the girl, masquerading as her brother.
Get below, Coniston. Haljan takes us down.
The astounded Englishman continued to gaze at Anita.
But he said, I mean to say, where to on the moon? Not to encounter Grantline at once, Miko? Our equipment is not ready. Of course not. We will land well away.
The reluctant Coniston left us.
I took the controls. Miko, still holding Anita as though she were a child, sat beside me. We will watch him, Anita.
A skilled fellow at this sort of work. I rang my signals for the shifting of the gravity plates. The answer should have come from below within a second or two.
But it did not. Miko regarded me with his great bushy eyebrows upraised. Ring again, Haljan. I duplicated. No answer. The silence was ominous. Miko muttered, that accursed Han. Ring again.
I sent the imperative emergency demand.
No answer. A second or two.
Then all of us in the turret were startled.
Transfixed.
From below came a sudden hiss. It sounded in the turret, it came from the shifting room called grid. The hissing of the pneumatic valves of the plate shifters in the lower control room. The valves were opening, the plates automatically shifting into neutral, and disconnecting.
An instant of startled silence.
Miko may have realized the significance of what had happened.
Certainly Snap and I did. The hissing ceased. I gripped the emergency plate shifter switch which hung over my head. Its disk was dead. The plates were dead in neutral, in the position they were placed only in port. And their shifting mechanisms were imperative. I was on my feet. We're in neutral.
The moon disk moved visibly as the Planetara lurched. The vault of the heavens was slowly swinging.
Miko ripped out a heavy oath. Haljan! What is this? The heavens turned with a giant swoop.
The moon was over us. It swung in a dizzying arc overhead, then back past our stern, under us, then appearing over our bow.
The Planetara had turned over. Upending. Rotating, end over end. For a moment I think all of us in the turret stood and clung.
The moon disk, the Earth, Sun, and all the stars were swinging past our windows. So horribly dizzying. The Planetara seemed lurching and tumbling. But it was an optical effect only. I stared with grim determination at my feet. The turret seemed to steady. Then I looked again. That horrible swoop of all the heavens. And the moon, as it went past, seemed expanded. We were falling. Out of control, with the moon gravity pulling us down. That accursed Han. A moment only had passed. My fancy that the moon disk was enlarged was merely the horror of my imagination. We had not fallen far enough for that.
But we were falling. Unless I could do something, we would crash upon the lunar surface.
Anita, killed in this turret, the end of everything, every hope.
Action came to me. I gasped, Miko, you stay here. The controls are dead. You stay here and hold Anita. I ignored Moa's weapon. Snap thrust her away. We're falling, you fool, let us alone. Miko gasped, can you check us? What happened? I don't know. I stood clinging. This dizzying whirl. From the Audiophone grid, Coniston's voice sounded.
I say, Haljan, something's wrong.
Han doesn't signal. The lookout in the forward tower was clinging to our window. On the deck below our turret, a member of the crew appeared, stood lurching for a moment, then shouted and ran, swaying, aimless. From the lower hull corridors our grids sounded with the tramping of running steps. Panic among the crew was spreading over the ship. A chaos below deck. I pulled at the emergency switch again. Dead. Snap, we must get down. The signals.
Coniston's voice came like a scream from the grid.
Han is dead. The controls are broken. I shouted, Miko, hold Anita. Come on, Snap. We clung to the ladders. Snap was behind me. Careful, Greg. Good God. This dizzying whirl. I tried not to look. The deck under me was now a blurred kaleidoscope of swinging patches of moonlight and shadow. We reached the deck. It seemed that from the turret Anita's voice followed us. Be careful. Once inside the ship, our senses steadied. With the rotating, reeling heavens shut out, there were only the shouts and tramping steps of the panic-stricken crew to mark that there was anything amiss. That, and a pseudo-sensation of lurching caused by the pulsing of gravity, a pull when the moon was beneath our hull to combine its forces with our magnetizers, a lightning when it was overhead. A throbbing, pendulum lurch. We ran down to the corridor incline. A white-faced member of the crew came running up. What's happened, Haljan? What's happened? We're falling. I gripped him. Get below. Come with us. But he jerked away from me. Falling? A steward came running. Falling? My God. Snap swung at them. Get ahead of us. The manual controls, our only chance, we need all you men at the compressor pumps. But it was instinct to try and get on deck, as though here below we were rats caught in a trap. The men tore away from us and ran. Their shouts of panic resounded through the dim, blue-lit corridors. Coniston came lurching from the control room. I say, falling. Haljan, my God, look. Han was sprawled at the gravity plate switchboard. Sprawled, head down. Dead. Killed? Or a suicide? I bent over him. His hands gripped the main switch. He had ripped it loose. And his left hand had reached and broken the fragile line of tubes that intensified the current of the pneumatic plate shifters. A suicide? With his last frenzy, determined to kill us all? Why? Then I saw that Han had been killed. Not a suicide. In his hand he gripped a small segment of black fabric, a piece torn from an invisible cloak. Snap was rigging the hand compressors. If he could get the pressure back in the tanks. I swung on Coniston. You armed? Yes. He was white-faced and confused, but not in a panic. He showed me his heat ray cylinder. What do you want me to do? Round up the crew. Get all you can. Bring them here to man the pumps. He dashed away. Snap called after him, kill them if they argue. Miko's voice sounded from the turret call grid, falling. Haljan, you can see it now. Check us. Desperate moments. Or was it an hour? Coniston brought the men.
He stood over them with menacing weapon.
We had all the pumps going. The pressure rose a little in the tanks.
Enough to shift a bow plate.
I tried it.
The plates slowly clicked into a new combination.
A gravity repulsion just in the bow tip. I signaled Miko. Have we stopped swinging? No. But slower. I could feel it, that lurch of the gravity. But not steady now. A limp.
The tendency of our bow was to stay up.
More pressure, snap. One of the crew rebelled, tried to bolt from the room.
Coniston shot him down. I shifted another bow plate.
Then two in the stern.
The stern plates seemed to move more readily than the others. Run all the stern plates, Snap advised.
I tried it. The lurching stopped. Miko called, "We're bow down." Falling. But not falling free.
The moon gravity pull on us was more than half neutralized.
I'll go up, Snap, and try the engines. You don't mind staying down here? Executing my signals? You idiot!
He gripped my shoulders. His eyes were gleaming, his face haggard, but his pale lips twitched with a smile.
Maybe it's goodbye, Greg. We'll fall fighting. Yes. Fighting. Coniston, you keep the pressure up.
With the broken tubes, it took nearly all the pressure to maintain the few plates I had shifted.
One slipped back to neutral.
Then the pumps gained on it, and it shifted again.
I dashed up to the deck. Oh, the moon was so close now. So horribly close.
The deck shadows were still. Through the forward bow windows, the moon's surface glared up at us.
Those last horrible minutes were a blur.
And there was always Anita's face.
She left Miko.
Faced with death, he sat clinging.
Moa too sat apart, staring. And Anita crept to me. Greg, dear one. The end. I tried the electronic engines from the stern, setting them in reverse.
The streams of their light glowed from the stern, forward along our hull, and flared down from our bow toward the lunar surface.
But no atmosphere was here to give resistance. Perhaps the electronic streams checked our fall a little.
The pumps gave us pressure just in the last minutes, to slide a few of the hull plates.
But our bow stayed down. We slid, like a spent rocket falling.